Hi, everybody. I'm Candid Frank. Top left corner is Gary Groob, and we have JB Clarke and Bullet Bob Tarring, who basically is a regular here. I don't even know why we even bother introducing him. You all should know him by now. Welcome to the program, everybody.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, JB, you're new, so we'll try to be gentle with you.
Yes, please.
So usually what we do is we ask people that are on the show here that have something to do with lacrosse, how they picked up a stick, if that's what they've done.
Oh, wow. I lived in Wilton, Connecticut. Coach Tarring knows that well. Guy Witten was the head lacrosse coach in Wilton, Connecticut. And I was a baseball player, probably a better baseball player than I was a lacrosse player. But summer of my 8th grade year, so between 8th grade and freshman year, my buddies talked me into playing lacrosse, so I played lacrosse and baseball that summer, and that was literally the last time I ever played baseball. From that point forward, I followed Coach Witten as much as I could, and played there. And then I played for a year at Roanoke College before I left there and actually started coaching for Coach Witten, and I've been in it ever since.
Help us understand what it was about the game that kept you in it. I mean, there's always things we start, but I'm always curious about what kept you in it.
Yeah, I think it was clearly the speed and excitement of it. I was a pitcher, so I was involved, once every 4 games or whatever in baseball. I wasn't a very good hitter, so they couldn't play me at first base like the other pitchers they could. So I think it was being involved in every play and being active more than just standing there at first base or sitting on the bench watching everybody else play. I think that was really what it was. And, I got to be honest with you, Coach Witten was kind of a Pied Piper in our town. And he was having a lot of success. Not that our baseball program wasn't, but not to the extent that Wilton Lacrosse was having. So it had as much to do with Guy Witten and the figure that he was in our town, the leader that he was, the success that he had. I really like the physicality about it too, Frank, really.
I was waiting for that because as a pitcher, you could throw some physicality, but there wouldn't be much of a price to pay. At least there was 90 feet where before you got to pay.
That's right. That's right.
Right?
And I was a quarterback in football, so the opportunity to actually hit someone instead of being hit was attractive to me as well.
Now, we see this all the time, and I'm definitely not throwing shade on your history at all. But one thing we do know about lacrosse is it's a lifetime experience. Talk to us about how you got into the transition of being a player to a person who coaches and helps the game move along with new people.
Yeah, it was it was Guy Witten and Tom Fujitani was our football coach. Coaching football was actually my first job. Because it was in the fall when I went back home. So I literally, Frank, it wasn't 20 minutes after having a whistle around my neck that I knew I wanted to be a coach. And it really changed my life and changed my trajectory academically. I thought I wanted to be a teacher coach. And I remember Coach Witten saying to me one day, we were out there, he was a math teacher. And he said, do you really want to do something, 7-8 hours a day? So you can do what you truly love to do for 2 hours a day. Meaning, do you really want to be a teacher and coach, or do you want to be a coach? And his point to me was try to do what you really love to do, which is coaching. And so those two guys gave me my start. And I coached there at the high school level for 4 or 5 years with those two guys and learned a whole ton about the game. And one of the most important things that Coach Fujitani, my football coach, ever said to me when we were talking about coaching is he said, you're going to learn a lot about how you like things to be done by working with me, but you're going to learn even more about how you don't like how I do things. And make sure you're taking notes of that as well, so that when you are out there and you are on your own, you remember the good and the bad. It was really good advice.
The common transition from player to coach, one of the benefits is you get to stay in the room. How important was that to you?
Very, very. I talk now a lot to where I am in Tampa. We're very close to the to the MacDill Air Force Base, and actually CENTCOM is right here in Tampa. So there are a lot of military folks around, and I get to talk to a lot of guys who have retired and were great leaders in that world. And they constantly talk about what the retired guys talk about what they miss most is being on a team. Those guys that were in the SEALs or whatever group they were with, they were still with a team. And as I get a little bit grayer and a little bit older and start to get thinking about what's next, that's my greatest fear. Really, is not being in the room anymore, not being around the team, not being in that group.
Well, that covers my list of questions. Now you're in trouble. I'm putting you over to Gary and maybe even Bob. I don't know what's going to happen there. Well, good luck with them.
I've got a few for it.
Well, my thing here is you weren't known nationally as a superstar, yet you become one of the most successful coaches in history. Do you think that being a student of the game rather than being a star helped you becoming the coach that you have become over the years?
Gary, I think it did. And I say that the experience that I have to answer that question even better is that I've worked with, I've had coaches work for me who were phenomenal players. And oftentimes they don't turn out to be the best coaches.
Right.
And what I've always said is I think that the game came so easily to them that it just happened. They didn't have to think about how to back cut. They didn't have to think about how to take a jab step in a split dodge. They didn't have to think about where their hands were. They didn't have to think about how to thumb the ball or put your finger on the ball to keep it in the stick, because they just ran by guys. For me, I was a pretty average lacrosse player. I look back on it. I wish I could remember more about my playing days, but I do remember having to think about, pretty much every step and finding ways to get myself open or to get in a position where my hands were free and I could feed someone. I wasn't the greatest shooter. I did have a good number of goals, but, they were all hard earned and as much earned through my thinking about how to do it. I was very coachable, is what Coach Witten tells me nowadays. So I think you're right. I think, not being a great player probably helped me because I had to think about every step.
Right. Now, you had a lot of trips along the way before you hit a head coach. You were at Ohio State, Roanoke. You're also at Duke, Loyola. Each one of those stops, did they have different things that you were able to pick up towards becoming a head coach?
Well, first of all, most of them, if you think about it, most of them I was working for Hall of Fame coaches,
Right.
All the way back to high school with Coach Witten, but Coach Pressler and Coach Pilot and Coach Cottle. I mean, all those guys, they're all Hall of Fame guys. So I was very fortunate early in my career to catch on to taking notes. Literally, I have, you could call them journals if you want. Being a journaler, I guess now is what's cool. But I have notebooks going back to literally my days working with the high school kids and Coach Witten all the way up through this year. So I'm able to go back through those things, kind of like going through the archives. And it's amazing how much the game changes. And Coach Taring will back me up on this, I bet. But it keeps coming back to the same old stuff. It was these changes you see in decades was really stuff that was done decades ago. So it's really interesting in that respect. But it was my growth in the game was all about working for the guys that I was able to work for.
Right. What do you think the biggest challenges was in establishing your credibility as a young coach? Now it's easy because you have a big lineage, almost 400 wins. But back when you were starting out, what do you think the biggest thing was for the credibility?
I think a lot of it had to do with who hired me, frankly, Gary. It really did. I was, because of my lineage in Wilton, I was able to get a job with Mike Pressler at Duke, who was a Wilton guy. He was 5 years ahead of me at Wilton High School and a Guy Witten protege as well. So that certainly helped me get that, my foot in the door there. And then I went to Duke and, following Coach Pressler, we had some success there. So, next thing you know, Dave Cottle thinks that maybe I can help him. And then, it really worked that way. It's so much of it is who you know. But I always had that chip on my shoulder that I didn't play big time college lacrosse, that I was kind of a nobody in the world. And I'm at these conventions and I'm looking around and I'm seeing all these phenomenal players that have now become coaches trying to, they're the who's who and I'm the who's he. You know what I mean? And so I think I always kind of had that chip on my shoulder where I had to work harder. I had to sit through more presentations, take better notes, watch more tape, and try and figure the game out that way.
Right, because it leads me to how your coaching style has evolved over the years, because the game has changed immensely over the last 20, 30 years, especially over the last decade. They're so much bigger, so much faster. And
Yeah.
how do you stay current with your coaching style?
I wasn't a very good student until I found a subject that I really liked, and
Right.
that subject was lacrosse. And I do consider myself a student, a lifelong learner. Um, and I'll never forget the last convention that Guy Whitten went to. And it was Sunday afternoon, and most of the people had left. And I don't know who the poor guy was that had the last presentation on a Sunday at the IMLCA convention. And Coach Taring's laughing because he knows what I'm talking about. And I was sitting kind of 3/4 of the way back in the room, and I moved up towards the front because whatever, I couldn't see the projector or whatever very well. And there's Guy Whitten, and it was the last year he was going to coach lacrosse. And on Sunday afternoon, he was in the front row of the very last presentation. So that was my lead. That was my the example that I saw. So I like being a student of the game. And then I've been at great schools, Gary. I mean, the schools I've worked at, it's not hard to recruit to. So that helps a lot too. When you have a great product and you can attract great young men, it really makes it a lot easier. I know that's a cliche and all the coaches say that, but if you look at the schools I've been to, it really has been a blessing from a recruiting standpoint.
Right. Now's when all the coaches take out their pad and pen. Is you've built championship programs everywhere you've gone. What is the foundation of a winning culture?
Player-led teams.
Right.
Teaching when I was at Washington College, and we were having success, and then we kind of tapered off a little bit, and I'll never forget that we were trying to figure out who the captains were going to be, and I wasn't ready to allow the team to elect captains because I didn't see the leaders in the group in the senior class. And it finally hit me. I was probably reading a book about leadership or something, and from whom much is expected, little is taught.
Right.
And I realized that the reason that we didn't have good leaders that I trusted to be captains of that team, the reason was, or the fault was with me, that I hadn't done a good job of developing those leaders. And it was at that time, probably 2005 or whatever, maybe earlier than that, 2000, where I realized that I really needed to start spending a lot more time on teaching and developing leadership within the team. I think our success in the last 20 years has really been more about my ability to let go and give that leadership and the culture over to the team because I work with them. I teach them from the second they get on even before they get on cable. We'll read a book this summer. Our freshmen, the first thing they're going to do as a member of our program this summer is read a book together. And they meet as groups every Wednesday, and then I meet with the leadership every Sunday night. We go over the book, the chapter of the book, or whatever that we read. Right. So I think it's the development of the leadership that has been key. Obviously, great players. Don't get me wrong. But I think the difference maker has been that aspect of it. The teaching the kids to lead themselves, hold each other accountable, hold each other to really high standards, and set the expectations as high as we can.
Right. I always seem to talk, and I always come back to this point of character wins cups. Character always wins no matter what. If you have character players, not characters, but character, that this team will always be there. Is culture something that you think can be taught, or is it something that's lived every day? Or is
I think you can teach it. I didn't when I first started. I didn't think that culture was something or character was good character was something that you could teach. But I do believe that you can, and I've seen that even when I came to Tampa just 5 years ago. There were great kids in this program, and when a new guy comes in and he starts doing things completely differently, it takes young men of character to buy into that and say, okay, look, we'll try this. They had plenty of success before I got here. I got here and they bought right in. They didn't even hesitate. They were like, okay, yeah, that sounds like a good way. Let's try that. And when they had questions, they asked me. That's the other thing. You have to be approachable. You have to, teachers have to be able to be asked questions. And we as coaches, because we're control freaks, sometimes we don't like, being the king and having one of the guys ask you questions. But I love it when they're asking questions. Why are we doing? They're doing it the right way, obviously, and at the right time. But coach, why do we do this? Why do we do that? Why do we read on Tuesdays, or why do we run a mile every Monday? I want them to ask those questions because I want them to know the answers. Because very rarely is it because I feel like it. And Dad used to say because I said so. There's usually a good reason behind it, and the more they understand the reason behind these things, the more they're going to buy in. Take ownership of it. Yeah.
Frank, your microphone. You're on mute.
Right. On that, I want to really drill down on that. When we talk about character and the benefit of a team playing with character, how important is it, and how easy is it to sell? Because with character comes results. The lack of character doesn't give results. For a coach, how do you make that clear to players in your mind?
Well, I think not to push back on you any, Frank, but I think a lack of character does create results. They're just not good results. And you can examples, the guys, they see that we've had success doing things a certain way. I'm very, very open to my guys about, where did I get this drill? Where did I get this tactic? Where did I learn this leadership principle? Where did I learn that we're going to do push-ups this way, or we're going to run a mile every Monday, or, and so all of it came from somewhere, and all those places they came from were all successful in some way or another. Again, it's not, I don't hide stuff from the guys. If we're going to do something, there's a reason for it. I want them to know why, and I want them to know why it was successful for that group and how it might be successful for this group. I really do. I really believe if you treat them like dogs, they're going to act like dogs. If you treat them like grown men, they're going to act like grown men for the most part. I mean, they're 18 to 22-year-olds, so there's going to be, some stuff going on, as you can imagine. But the more you treat them like grown men, and that's one of our core principles is it's BAM, BAM, be a man, and we drill that home from the first second they choose to join our program. Really, they're getting hammered right away about making good choices over this summer, for the freshmen or for the transfers coming in. Like, guys, we do this differently. I know you're 21 years old, but you're going to have to do it this way. And it's not, I don't want it to sound militaristic or anything, but it's just a really high level encouragement, culture of doing the right thing and acting like a man.
Right.
Being a team, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Whether it's military or otherwise, a team, it's centered on being a team.
Some of the best leadership books I've read, most impactful in my program, have nothing to do with sports or the military. I mean, there's millions of great books out there just on leadership principles within the business world. Simon Sinek is one of my favorite speakers. He's phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
I like to ask scouts this question. I'm really interested in your answer as well. Is what do you look for first when you're evaluating a recruit?
The thing you're supposed to say here is we look for character. We look for good students. Well, you don't go out to a field, watch lacrosse for 10 hours a day in the roasting sun, and notice first that the guy's a good student. You notice that he's a good athlete. You notice that he's a good player. So it really does all start with, is he a good athlete? Is he fast? Is he strong? What qualities does he have that we may need in our program? And then all the background checks begin, right? Then you start talking to his coaches, his teachers, his guidance counselors, his parents, the kid. One of the greatest things to do is sit in an office with a kid and his mom or dad and see the reaction of the kid when you make you can really force parents to start asking questions that the kid's going to be a little uncomfortable with. Mom wants to know where he's going to eat. Mom wants to know if there's a school nurse. Mom wants to know who's in charge of the academics,
Right.
those things. And a lot of these kids, these 17-year-olds, sit there and if he's rolling his eyes at his mom and or saying, "Mom, come on," you learn a lot about a kid in those
Yes, you do.
little time frames.
Sure.
But it really, Gary, it starts with, are they good athletes? Could they play for us? Are they strong enough, big enough? Do they have good enough skills? We as
Right.
coaches are arrogant enough to believe we can teach a kid how to pass and catch or how to cut and whatnot. But he's got to be able to do it at a pretty good speed.
Right. What advice do you give to a player who feels overlooked?
Well, if you feel overlooked, it's getting too late. Especially, there's so many different levels of college lacrosse now, Gary. And I know up north, there's so many different levels of the indoor game, and starting to be so many more different levels of the outdoor game. But in the NCAA and in the United States, there is a place for every kid's level to play. We played a team a couple years ago, and we were beating them pretty good. But they had a kid who had about a third of an arm. Literally, he had about a third of an arm. And he
Right.
would take his stick and put the butt end under here, and he'd cradle like this. And when he really had to throw it hard, he'd throw it with one hand. He scored a goal against us. We were the number one team in the country, and this kid with one arm literally scored a goal again. I mean, you talk about there being a place for every level of lacrosse player. It truly is one of the greatest things about our college game. So, if you feel like you're being overlooked or it's getting too late, you're wrong. It's not. It might be too late for you to go to North Carolina or one
Right.
of those TV teams to go to. But shoot, what are there? 250 Division III teams now, or something like that, Coach Taring? I mean, there's 80 Division II teams, another 75 Division I teams. That's just NCAA. This MCLA, the club lacrosse. They're playing it at Clemson and Florida State and all over the place. There is a place for everybody, every level, to play good quality lacrosse. Doesn't really answer your question that much, Gary, but I would say don't give up. It's not too late.
Right.
For instance, at the University of Tampa, we recruit very late. We're just now starting on the 27s. So a lot of people think they're behind for us, like they might have missed the boat for the University of Tampa. And that's not the case at all. We're literally, last week was the first week we were out on the road watching 27s play. Whereas, the Princetons and all those guys, they're doing the 28s and 29s now. They wouldn't even think about a 27. So we just had a 26 contact us. He's a heck of a player.
Right.
We'd take him in our program right now if he was able to get into school and pay for it. We'd take a kid right now.
Sure. Bob, let's throw it over to you for a little bit.
Yeah. Long time, JB. We've known each other.
Yeah, it's great to see you, Coach.
Great. Always great to talk to you. We spend time at the conventions. I guess one of my first questions is, why did you focus on Division II rather than Division I? Because you could have gone Division I, and I know that from talking to coaches that you were approached. Why did you decide to stay Division II?
The truth of that is, Coach, it was closer to Division III. And what does that mean? I'm still a big believer in the importance of the education of sport to the overall education of a young man. Division III seems to be like the highest level of that, if you will, because there isn't any scholarship money. Those guys are, other than the merit money or the financial aid, they're paying their own way to do that. So that you don't have that side of it. It was, I don't know. I got, Mike Serino, who was the coach at Limestone, hired me. And I went down there and got into this division, and it's been, I've loved every minute of it. I really have. Not that I didn't love my time in Division I. Don't get me wrong. There's nothing like a Duke Carolina game on a Tuesday night in April in Chapel Hill or Durham. I'll tell you that. But yeah, that's right. But I'll also say this, and I tell a lot of young coaches this. I was the head JV coach at Wilton High School, and we were playing Yorktown High School JV, and the varsity game was a couple hours later or whatever. That JV, I was just as nervous about coaching that JV game as I was about coaching the varsity game later on, or going back to when I was with Coach Cottle, playing Maryland in the Final Four. I mean, I was just as nervous, just as excited, just as happy when we won, just as sad when we lost. To me, it's always been about the competition, what kind of kids you can get and who you're working with. And the division just never really changed me enough to say, hey, I want to leave everything I'm doing right now and move my family and go do that.
Well, that's an interesting thing about moving the family, because there seems to be, as you and I both know, what's happened at like UVA, there's not much loyalty, and the Division One, and it comes down to budgets and what football can do for you, which is not something you don't have to worry about.
No.
But what do you think of the new rules that are about to happen, and how are you going to adjust to that with the 5-year program?
Yeah, the 5-year thing is, I think that what we see now won't be what goes through. Frankly, I think there's enough people very involved at the highest levels, all the way up to, I know that the people at the NHL are going crazy about the 5 for 5.
Oh yes, oh yeah.
So I think there's enough communication going on in rooms that I'm not invited into at really high levels that I think it'll probably look different than it does today. It looks different today than it did on Friday, right? I mean, things have been changing at a rapid pace. It might have changed today, and you're talking about something I don't have any idea about, frankly. I like the idea of keeping kids in one school, maybe two. I really do. It's another reason I like Division II. Do we deal with the transfer portal? Absolutely. We have kids from the transfer portal. And what I say to people is I don't like the transfer portal. But if I didn't use it, it'd be like us declining a penalty. If Adelphi gets a 1-minute slashing and me saying, no, we don't want to be man up. We'll just play all even. Thank you. So you got to play by the rules. I don't like it. I love having guys come in. I love the 4-year guys. There's so much more to this business of what I do than just winning and just coaching the game. It's so much more about all those things we talked about first 10 minutes of this interview, and about the building the character and the culture, and you can't, it's really hard to do that in a year. It just is. So I'd like to see some of those rules go through where we're encouraging guys to stay at one place. I can see if a guy's got to leave and go to a second place. I can see that. And I don't have a problem with that. But you got guys transferring 2, 3, 4, 5 times just because they didn't play here or they didn't like that. I think that's the wrong message for our youth. I think it's a problem in our society, because that's what you're starting to see out there with these kids when they get into jobs. My wife works in human resources, and she hires interns every summer. She's in charge of hiring interns for this bank. And she has interns call her the night before they're supposed to show up for their internship and say, I got a better internship, I'm not coming tomorrow. Things like that happen all the time. It's not just in sport, and certainly not just in men's lacrosse, where our society is going to a commitment means absolutely nothing.
Yeah. Well, in the terms of the NIL, how does that affect your decision making? That we've had coaches quit that just didn't want to deal with the NIL, the size of the squads, having to give everybody money. How are you dealing with that? It's a different part of the job you never had before.
No, we don't. I don't have to deal with it. I only have to deal with it on the other side, and that's when I'm recruiting a kid and he gets an NIL offer from a Division I school. I don't know if there are Division II teams that are offering NILs. It's a little bit different rules here in Division II, but it goes back to the last question too, Coach, about why stay in Division II. I really don't want to get into a point where I'm negotiating with my starting goalie over how much NIL money he gets, because he's going to want a lot the year he has a good year. But then if he has a bad year, am I going to take that money away? And if you take that money away, then he's going to another school. So it's one of the things we try and do with scholarship money is, when you come in, that's what you get. And we're not going to negotiate and say, I had a good year, because then a year from now, if you have a bad year, I'm going to call your parents and say, we're going to take away your scholarship. I mean, it just doesn't, it's not how it's supposed to be. I guess I'm more of a purist than that.
Well, I don't know if anybody knows it, but JB is the executive director of the IMLCA, which is the Intercollegiate Men's Lacrosse Association, and you've been executive director what now? 4 years? Is it 4 or 5?
This is my 5th year. Yeah, I
Fifth
was.
year.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that job is to help work with the egos of 150 to 200 coaches, and I've watched him do the job, and it is amazing how he handles it. And
Thank you, Coach.
how do you? I mean, you stay with it. You know, you keep getting elected. What do you think about that in terms of dealing with all the coaches and their complaints and their idiosyncrasies, and you hear it?
Yeah, we do.
How is that?
And that's okay. It's we really, when Richie Mead and those guys started this coaches association about 17 years ago now, Coach, if you can believe it.
I was there. Yeah.
Yeah, you were there, is right. And you'll remember, it was coaches helping coaches. And I was one of those young, someone, I think might have been Gary asked the question, kind of basically, how'd you get into this? And you weren't a great player. How did you stay in it? My passion for the Coaches Association and coaches helping coaches, I think, is born out of that. I was an absolute nobody, high school JV coach, walking around the halls with the Dom Starges and the Jack Emmers and the Don Zimmermans and those guys. They didn't know who the heck I was. But if I asked them a question, they were more, and you know this, Coach, they were more than happy to answer that question. They'd spend an hour with me if I wanted it. They didn't care who I was and that they didn't know who I was.
Exactly.
So my passion for this Coaches Association really is born out of all that. And it really is coaches helping coaches. And yeah, you hear anytime you're running an organization, we have over 1,000 members now, if you can believe it, Coach.
Wow.
Yeah. But you're going to have people that complain. You're going to have the naysayers. And it's okay. The good news is, and I look at it, the good news is they're paying attention. And they have an opinion about how this maybe should run a little bit differently, or why isn't the association doing this for me or my conference or whatever it is. But it's grown so much. Now it's really more of kind of overseeing all these people, these great people that work with us and for us. It's always been a volunteer organization. So we have over 100 coaches now that are working on a committee or chairing a committee, helping us run our summer events, helping us run our convention. So it's really become something that runs itself. It's really been awesome to watch.
Yeah, you mentioned it. I was around when Coach Mead and all them started it, and there was a cooperative effort between what was then the Lacrosse Foundation, which I ran at that point, and then Stanisci. Yes. And there were some contentions which I was involved in, which Coach Mead went to bat, and as you remember,
yeah,
and it was about the finances for the convention and the vendors, and you all took it back over, and now I think you just got your money a couple of years ago back.
We did
past history, we did. So there was a contention there going on, but the groups came together, and now you're working together with USA Lacrosse, which was not happening for a good while, and you had something to do with that. I know that you met with the board and leadership. How did that go?
That was it was hard, because I was the younger guy. I was kind of, you'll love this, Coach. I was the head coach at Washington College. I had a phone call one day from Coach Mead, and he said, "What are you doing this afternoon?" I said, "I'm working. I'm here in the office." He said, "No, you're not. You get over here to Annapolis. Meet me at it's at McGarvey's or something down there, right downtown Annapolis." Right. And he said, "Meet me at McGarvey's at 5, or at 3 or whatever." So I go over there. He goes, "You're going to be the treasurer of the IMLCA. Come with me." We went out to the Bank of America. We opened a checking account, and I was the treasurer for the next 12 years. We spent a lot more time at McGarvey's that night than we did at the bank, but some great plans were laid there. The relationship with USA Lacrosse, as contentious as it was, it's something that Steve Stennerson and I always agreed upon, is that we both had the best. We wanted what was best for college lacrosse, and he might have had a different view of how that looked than we did, I was kind of thrown in the middle of it, as you alluded to, kind of between
I remember.
here's Richie and here's Steve and here's JB in the middle, just trying to
Oh, I
not get
remember.
drowned in the middle. But I learned so much from both those guys on how to deal with, it's okay to have opposing views on things. And it worked out great for USA Lacrosse. They're doing great. And the IMLCA is doing great. And that money you alluded to, Coach, we did get that back. And what it does now, we have what's called a coaches relief fund. I think you're familiar with that. And
Yep.
and when, unfortunately, our coaches sometimes do have these tragedies in life. And we're able to, it's not a lot of money, but we're able to help them in whatever way we can when they're going through those. And that comes from our coaches. It's really kind of it is the single best thing we do, without question.
Right. I agree. Question about club lacrosse.
Mm.
I know
Are you talking like high school club, Coach?
high school clubs.
Yeah, yeah.
I've done college and high school, mostly college. And I watch, of course, we sit out there in their chairs in the summertime, just dying, and they have no idea what we go through with that to find two players, whatever the case may be. What do you think club lacrosse has done for the development of the high school athlete that you have to recruit?
Ooh,
Rather than the structure of their high school program. Because you've been in both.
I've been in both, and I've watched both for decades. I think the best way to put it is it's been good and bad. It's been good and bad. It has given kids opportunities to play with other kids that back in the dark ages when I played high school lacrosse, you didn't get to play much with kids from other towns. It was all the kids from your town.
Yeah.
You went to the Army lacrosse camp for 5 days, and you played with some other guys. But these kids are playing with kids from all over the country all summer long, which I think is good. I think it's positive. I'm really concerned about the trend of kids deciding not to play high school lacrosse so they can focus on their club lacrosse. I think that's a big problem, big problem.
Big mistake.
But the other side of the coin is, unfortunately, the game is growing so fast, even at the high school levels, you're not getting quality guys coaching these kids in high school. And you're not getting quality guys coaching them in youth and as they're growing up. So, here's a little, push to get some of the guys who played in college or even just played in high school that can go out and spend a few hours a week coaching the kids. It's the club world is doing wonders for a lot of kids. It really is. It really is. It's making recruiting easier in some ways for we coaches. You remember, if you wanted to recruit a kid from Long Island, you went to Long Island to find him. If you wanted to recruit a kid from Fairfield County, Connecticut, you went to Fairfield County and found him. Now you go to the Delaware turf, one of the worst places on earth, and you sit there for 5 days, and every kid in the world comes there. I mean, look at these rosters. I remember watching the Notre Dame. I don't know if it was Notre Dame Duke or something a couple of years ago, and they went down the roster of Notre Dame, and it was like it was everywhere. It was Nevada, it was Wyoming, it was freaking Colorado, it was Oregon. I mean, it was phenomenal.
Yeah.
So that's the exciting part of the club world to me.
How diverse is your squad in terms
of
your graphics?
Yeah, it's really diverse. They're from all over the place. What I don't have right now, and I had a whole ton of it at Limestone, is I don't have many Canadians. We just haven't, and it's not for not. I don't have anything against them. I won a lot of games with those darn Canadians.
Mm-hmm.
They're still some of my closest friends now. But
you had a lot of them at Limestone.
Yeah, we had a whole bunch of them at Limestone.
Yeah, I remember
we had a
that.
really good track record there. We had some alums, obviously, by the time I'd gotten there from Coach Serino's teams who were really, really helpful and impactful on getting more Canadians down to Gaffney.
Well, this audience is a Canadian audience.
Yeah.
And a couple of the coaches we've had on here are very clear, and Gary has helped throw a few names at him. So, tap on him that this is over. Get some names for you down there. Another thing, you've gotten these championships since Roy left. What's been happening differently than Whipple's coaching staff, or what's happened that's changed that you're now in the finals almost every year?
Yeah, I like to say that we're doing that in spite of me, because he was so successful when he was
Yeah,
here.
He was.
You know, he left this place so much better than he found it, and you know, I've a huge debt of gratitude to him. Every time we win, you know, certainly win a championship, it's great, but every time we win, and you know, I came in, it was easy, Bob. I got to be honest with you. I was really worried about coming here from Limestone and would they accept me? You know, I was, I was like the anti whatever, you know, the Darth Vader from down or up north. And
Well, you were the enemy on the
I was the
field
enemy.
before that. So.
Yeah. But it's the quality of person that the University of Tampa attracts. And Coach Whipple did such a good job of bringing here that when I got here, the roster was just chock full of good guys and obviously good players. So I didn't have to spend 3 years rebuilding the thing. You know what I mean? I just didn't. I came in with a little bit different way of blowing the whistle and some different drills and a little different way to skin the cat. And the guys bought in. They bought in, and I learned so much from them, and hopefully they learned a lot from me. But I think it's just been the maturation of the program. We're 15, 16 years old now. It's interesting that, you know, we won our championship in 22, and then our women's program won it in 2024 and 25. And so it was the exact same number of years for the women's program to win a championship and the men's program to win a championship, which I thought was really interesting and probably not a coincidence that when you start a new program, it's going to take a certain amount of time to do it. I think, you know, similar to like Coach Paradine at Lenore Rhine. I mean, I think it was a similar number of years between him starting the program, him winning a championship and competing for it all the time. So, I fell on a good place, and
Well, you're in a perfect situation to recruit.
Yeah.
I mean,
yes,
yeah. I mean, I've been to Tampa Bay many, many times in that area, and it is absolutely beautiful. I can't imagine not wanting to go to school there. I actually was considering moving there at one point because my son was there, and I talked to Whipple, but I didn't move there, so I didn't. I told him I'd love to.
He
help
would
him.
have rented you a place. He's got a bunch of properties. I'm sure you could.
Oh, I heard that.
Whipple
That's
your
right.
landlord.
He was a landlord. That's right.
That's right.
No, I
Yes,
forgot
sir.
about that. You mentioned character, and it's so important. And the book reading, I know I've been working with UVA's program for years, and that's kind of what happened there. I don't know whether you did it first or Lars did it, but the book program of bringing the kids together so it becomes brain as much as physical development. And you do need some characters on a team.
No doubt.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
yes.
You
Yes.
want character, but you got to have a few characters just to keep the balance going.
Agreed.
But the development of the brain as well as the physical side and skill side of the game, that's what develops a full team, I believe. And I think that's what you've done down there with great success. It really is. The last question, I want you to know how you got Coach Gruden involved. He's been your biggest cheerleader.
Yeah, well, he was actually out at the field again today. He came out.
Was he really?
He wanted to be coached in lacrosse. It was awesome. We did some stick work with him. We taught him. I told him he looks more like a crease attackman than anything. So we didn't want him running up and down the field. We taught him how to come off a pick, how to read the defender on a pick. He did some shooting today. He's become, to say he's a good friend would be an exaggeration, Coach, but he's become a friend. Texted me a whole bunch, leading up to the championship game and after. He came to our semifinal game. I believe it or not, I have a young son. I have a 14-year-old son. He texts my son. It's really been a lot of fun. It was born out of just a confluence of things came together for us to create the relationship. And then he came out to practice one day, had a great time. Like I said, he came to a game. The parents treated him great. He's at the tailgate after the game, hanging out with the parents. And he's just what you see is really what he is. It's not an act. He is not an actor. When
He's
you
a
see him
character.
he is a character and
a
of great
live
character. Yeah.
Well, he was as a coach. I mean, he was very animated on the sidelines, and I watch his program, sure you do, where he opens the box and somebody new has sent him a helmet. Have you put him in equipment yet, or just?
Oh yeah, he was in a helmet and gloves today. Oh yeah,
No kidding.
yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
Oh, that's
He's a giant man now. His son is a bodybuilder. I don't know if you knew that.
no, I did not.
And he's hard as a rock. He is big and strong, and yeah, I wouldn't want to get caught in a dark alley with him mad at me with those eyes. He's got those eyes, man. He can. But we've been really lucky to have him come on. We have a group that does our media for us. It's actually a company started by Mark Whitaker, who played for me. Just started a company when he was a student here called Maverick Media, and he works with the Groob group. Anyway, Mark sent me the stats. Gary, you guys will know how to describe this better than me, but the social media, we had over 10 million views of our videos that they did in the month of April, and the month of April alone.
Wow.
Yeah, with over 710,000 unique viewers. And a lot of that has to do with Coach Gruden showing up and working with us and talking to the team and talking to me, helping me with different situations in the coaching world. And so it's been, look, we're getting a heck of a lot more out of this than John Gruden is. So we're really grateful for his.
You can't buy that kind of PR.
No, you can't.
You cannot. No, it's. I mean, and he is such a character when he's doing his podcast.
Yes.
And I understand Adelphi got very upset that he was in your locker room for the semifinals. I mean, I heard that from the coach that he was very upset that you had this kind of support. But
I think one of the highlights of my career is going to be going over to the football house and sitting down with Coach Gruden. But it'll scare me to death, I'll tell you that. He's going to ask me for my snap count from my high school football team. I know it.
And he probably remembers his.
He probably does, yeah. I remember mine, but I don't think he's going to like it.
Oh, that's funny. Well, God, it's great to have you, Coach. I mean,
thank you guys so much. This has been a lot of fun. A lot of fun.
I want to ask about with the Olympics coming up. Yeah. First of all, your thoughts on sixes, box on field. All the traditionalists hate it, but I always figured that in order to grow the game, to get more eyes on it, like another 300 countries, we can't lose that way, really.
Yeah, Gary, I agree with you in so many ways. As a college lacrosse coach and the head of a 1,000-person college lacrosse coaches organization, my fear with sixes is this, that let's use Stanford University, who has a very successful women's program. Their AD is undoubtedly hearing from people, hey, we ought to start men's lacrosse. We ought to start men's lacrosse. Look, it's in the Olympics. And then that AD is going to see lacrosse in the Olympics. And here's what it looks like to that person. It looks like 12 people on the sideline with 2 coaches.
Right.
And that person says, well, we can afford that. And then they're going to find out that no, it's really 50 guys on the sidelines. It's 5 coaches, a director of lacrosse operations, a trainer dedicated to men's lacrosse only, et cetera, et cetera. And it costs this much money. And it's going to turn off someone like that. So that's my fear, is that, are we going to lose our game that we have now to something more like sixes? I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm not saying it's bad. Just understand that. I think being in the Olympics is phenomenal. I don't think, like you said, with the number of people, looking at John Gruden and Tampa lacrosse, it's all good, right? Any publicity is good publicity, even bad publicity. So I think it's great. There's 300 countries are going to hear the word lacrosse. I mean, how can that be bad?
Right.
Go back again. My fear is that, we may lose sight of our game a little bit in order to grow it at the Division I level.
We're going to have Andy Shea on in a couple of weeks, and I've been out at USA Lacrosse for the tryouts and stuff, and Andy's pretty dedicated to making this team as we've got to beat Canada right now. This is their game, box game on the field,
right?
Yeah.
And you talk to some of the players, and like Pennell and the rest of them, after 18 goals, they're getting tired of it. It's just nothing but scoring. Yeah. Poor goalies get creamed, And my fear is the same as yours, that this may look to residual schools that have women's lacrosse. Oh, this is a great entry, but for the world, it's something that can help develop the game in countries where they only can put together 10,
Correct.
12, 14 people.
That's right.
So it's got a good and bad side.
Yeah.
I don't know where we are at USA Lacrosse in terms of this. They're pushing it big time. I hope there's no long-term compromise. It would really upset me and most people like you in spinning the game. It would really upset us. But it's an entree.
Yes.
Back in '84, when I was head of the foundation, Tommy Hayes, Richie Moran, and I tried to get a game in LA. I don't know if you remember that or not. We had a doctor out there who helped us, told us all kinds of stuff. We had all the countries fly in, and the guy eventually, Uberall, put us on a field that was way off the venue. And you can imagine the crap that Tommy and I took. I mean, our names were mud after that for a while. But we made an attempt, and finally it's there.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Well, it's dictated by the Olympic Committee, because nobody in the Olympic Committee gives a damn about lacrosse. They dropped baseball, one of the most popular sports in the world. They dropped it, and now it's back. So, I mean, I hear you. I've got reservations about it too. The exposure should be good, but you're right. I hadn't thought about schools like Stanford looking at it. That could be a problem.
Even
well, that's why I felt from the beginning with the sixes, it's very important that during the broadcast there should be some history applied to what people are watching. In other words, when they talk about this, they shouldn't be ashamed to say this is a version that we're allowing you to see. You're getting to watch this, but the other versions that are more popular, outdoor lacrosse, indoor lacrosse, and an understanding, a small little story about what kind of lacrosse is actually out there, almost like a disclaimer to advise people you could play 6 on a floor or you can play 12 on a field, whatever it is, right? To let people know that this isn't typical lacrosse. And we need that because we need to not turn people off.
That's a really good point, Frank. I guess the Native Americans would be a little bit disappointed that we're only playing with 10 guys on the field at a time, right?
Right.
Weren't they out there with thousands of them on a field that was 2 miles long? So,
well, the horrible part is they're not included right now. I'm working with Ora Lions and the Haudenosaunee and trying to go through the federal government through a couple former representatives who played lacrosse. They're not included right now. And so we're trying to make the case. Look, England has 4 teams. That's one country. And as JB knows, Haudenosaunee, or the Iroquois at that time, weren't even allowed in England. And they almost didn't get to Israel. So for them to be excluded in terms of just the history of the game is going to be a major, major problem in terms of, I know I've heard some bad things that they may do in terms of demonstration if they don't get in. The Olympic Committee has made exceptions in the past, but we don't know. So at this point, they're number 3 in the world at this point. I think, aren't they? Maybe I think they're number 3 in the international community, right?
Yeah.
So it's going to be a travesty if they don't get in. So,
guys, Gary, I just wanted to show you this, Frank. If you look in the background of my, I don't know how to get my pen there, but if you look in the background over my head here, that's Reed Reinholt from British Columbia. And this is Shane Jackson, who's still playing Shane's still playing in the NLL, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just noticed that. I was looking at those 2 guys.
There
was something else.
Reed's been an old friend of mine. And
is that right?
He's been on the show a few times. Yeah. And we've actually done some research for him when he was, doing some stuff for the Players Association.
Yeah. So, and his brother Tor was something else too.
Oh yeah. My other thing with the Olympics, as we're winding down, excuse me, is exit strategy. If we don't have an exit strategy, or more importantly, the NLL and the PLL, as well as NCAA, really, it's a great little 2-week tournament. And, oh, that was wonderful. And then we just move on and we don't gain anything. If we have an exit strategy, this is where, with all that exposure, we can move from 4, 3, 4, 5, wherever we are, up to the penthouse and be included in the footballs, the baseballs, the hockeys, the basketballs. It's how we do it after the fact.
That's a really good point, Gary. That's a really good point. Yeah. Yeah. I should, I'm going to call Mark tomorrow and ask him about that.
Right.
Well, the Coaches Association should have a lot to do with it. I mean, the NCAA and the athletic directors should definitely be involved, but they've got other sports to worry about. USA Lacrosse and the Coaches Association are the two, and the women's are the three organizations that really should front this.
Yeah, that's a great point. Great point.
And because who else is going to do it? And the problem is also
nobody.
Exactly. And the problem is also, I've talked to our trio that does the ESPN stuff. They hope they're going to be the announcers, but the product may not show until 2:00 in the morning.
Yeah,
we're not going to get top billing in terms of primetime television. So that's another question of how that's going to be handled in terms of exposure, because hockey was, that Gary, hockey was, until it became big, was in the middle of the night.
That's right.
And now all of a sudden it's big because of the great games that have happened. So if we end up in the middle of the night, who's going to see us? And especially in Europe, who's going to watch the game if it's 2:00 in the morning? So, I don't know.
That's the challenge, right? Prime time isn't prime time one time. Europe is 6 hours different than us, so there's multiple prime times. And I guess the question really is, where's the prime time that matters here in North America, where we think the game needs more promotion, or is it in Europe, or is it in Asia? So I guess that's almost like a moot point, because at the end of the day, if people want to see it, and if you're able to bring the game on television or however you stream it or whatever at your own convenience, which the Olympics doesn't cooperate very much in that regard, that would help a lot if you could decide when to watch it.
Well, we're not going to get that privilege. I mean, that's what I'm hearing. It's going to be totally up to them, and it'll be streamed later or whatever. But unless the organizations, men, women, and USA get on the stick and try to promote this, and it's not going to happen. And the countries too: Canada, Australia, England, whoever qualifies to play. Japan. I mean, there's so much money in Japan for this game. Unfortunately, they don't start till they get to college. We would both love to recruit some Japanese players, but they're already playing college. You've been through that too, I'm sure. So it's a great opportunity if we handle it right. And then you're right. It's a follow-up to getting it done, to doing it. It's going to be the key. So
who do you call if you want to play?
Pardon me?
Who do you call if you want to play?
Right.
That's the big question. Somebody sees it, enjoys it. Now, what's the next step for that person that enjoyed it? Who do they call?
Great point, Frank.
Right?
Great point.
So,
we got to make for us. We got to make that U.S. Lacrosse.
Yeah, USA Lacrosse has got to have a or an international website availability, and they need to stream those games on their website. I mean,
good point.
You guys don't have, and the women's group, you don't have a website to do that, and yours is limited to the membership. But USA Lacrosse, with Canada's organization, if they would stream these games either the day they happen or after they happen internationally, and make sure that all countries can get to see them, that's a selling point. But that has to be organized now. 28 isn't that far away.
Yeah, exactly. There's rights issues in the Olympics. I mean, the network that doesn't own the rights can't even broadcast a replay of anything going on.
That's another hurdle.
That's the toughest thing about the Olympics.
Well, that's why the big bucks get paid to get over.
I think as simple as a website or a 1-800 number that people can call if they're interested. If the Olympics allowed that to happen, I think that would go a long way to basically, again, how do we hook up the people who like what they're seeing and want to know more about it? How do we make that transition from learning about it to finding out about it? and not
We're
have
also going to forget about it real fast.
absolutely. Well,
Oh, yeah.
attention span is 30 seconds. That's
That's
what
the exit
attention
strategy.
span-
I'm
30.
talking
I'd love to
It'll
have a
be
30-second
less.
attention span.
maybe less.
It'll be come and gone. And, now Ricky, I've talked to him at USA Lacrosse, and he's thinking about world teams and he's thinking about USA. That's his job. But this is bigger, this is bigger than that. And, I just feel like USA has to take a huge role in this, as well as your Canadian, because you're the two countries that can do it. We
I
can
got a
do it.
crazy off the wall idea.
I'll take it.
Okay, while the game's on the air, right? There's advertising for sale on the sidelines. Why doesn't Canada, the US, and everybody else who's interested in lacrosse either post a website there? If you want to know more about lacrosse, post the website there. Or I don't know if a barcode's possible. I don't know if that's possible, but my point is, I think we're all on the same page that we all know this is an opportunity, and this opportunity needs to be stricken while the iron's hot. We can't wait for the iron to cool off, because then we're just going to end up back where we were before the Olympics. So we all want the same thing. At least I know you guys do. We all want lacrosse to get the best chance it can get, to have new people come in, bring in new blood. It's not just players, it's coaches, it's people, parents, it's people who love the game just because of what they saw. That's what we want to attract people to come to lacrosse.
Yeah, well, JB, we have some retired heavyweights that
We do.
that have nothing to do now. They're not coaching, like the Emmers and people like that, and they've been international coaches. They know it. I don't know. I'm suggesting maybe a committee that you could form to have them get on this. I mean, because they can pick up the phone and call USA Lacrosse and get something done, because they have the clout to do it. So I'm just
They
opening
can probably
that up.
call the USOC and get stuff done.
And USO, yeah, well, maybe so. Maybe somebody has a connection. So if I can help, I'm totally open to help you any way I can. So
One group advertising, they make a phone call. Where are you calling for? Where are you? I'm in Canada. Okay, that number goes there. The same thing. If I'm in Europe, goes there. The hard part is just get to people, make that one call, that first call.
Yes.
How do I play?
I agree and totally.
Just before we wrap up, I have one final question for JB, and I love asking this question because really get to
Why am I nervous all of a sudden, Coach Terry?
when your coaching career is done and people look at the impact that JB Clarke had on the game, how do you hope your legacy will be remembered?
Wow.
I hope that the guys that played for us feel like, because they were in our program, they're better men, they're better members of society, they're better husbands, they're better fathers, they're better people, they're better members of their church, they're better citizens, that their community's better because they're living in it, because they spent 4 years in our program. I think that's, if my legacy could be anything, it wouldn't be much about winning lacrosse games. It'd be more about, did I help develop these guys along with the schools that I work at? Did I help develop them into being great citizens?
Great answer, JB.
I really want to thank both of you, JB and Bob, as always, for taking the time and talking lacrosse with us.
It's been fun.
I love going through all the things, because people see on the sidelines, nobody gets to the nooks and crannies and all the things that go into it, from getting into coaching to staying in there, staying relevant, and like I say, darn near 400 victories. There has to be something in there. So I really appreciate you taking the time with us.
Thanks, Gary.
And Bob, as always, I really thank you again for putting this together, for one, but also all your insights into everything.
Thank you very much. This is one of my pleasures of life, is to get on this television and talk to guys that I have known for years and years. So it's fun. Thank you, Gary, for having me.
Yeah, thanks, Gary. Frank, thanks for having me. This is fun.
I'll just say ditto, because I'll start crying if I start talking about Bob Carring and the greatness that he evokes out of my heart. Honestly, all three, thanks for doing this. Promoting the game of lacrosse is something we've been doing for over 20 years. It's always been an action of love for a game that I think doesn't get the kind of respect it deserves, but that doesn't mean the people that are in it don't get everything they could possibly want out of it. And we're talking to a couple of guys here who not necessarily are getting long in the tooth, but it doesn't matter how old we are. We got a part to play in lacrosse. And gentlemen, thank you for playing your part. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having
Thank
me.
you guys for
It was
giving us
awesome.
the audience, the
Yeah.
platform to do this. Thanks a lot.
All right, for Gary Groob, JB Clarke, and Bullet Bob Daring, I'm Candid Frank Stanisci. Thank you for watching NLL Lacrosse Talk. We'll see you again next Thursday at 4 o'clock.